So in today's likely excessively long video, I want to go over technical faults which may be contributing to causing a good morning type squat and how to fix these without using any special accessory exercises. These are just purely going to be technique adjustments that can help the good morning squat. So just to be clear on what the good morning squat is, this is when we go down with a chest angle of some degree, we get down here and then the chest falls down or the hips shoot up, and then we end up having to use our lower back, or mostly our lower back, to finish the squat. So, I mean, this is going to be an exaggerated version, but it looks something like this. Okay, come down. Again, that would have looked excessive, but basically it's this loss of chest position when we're driving back up. So I'm going to go over 4 common technical errors that I see that happens to potentially cause or contribute to a good morning squat. These might not happen in isolation, it might be a combination of all of these, but I just want to show you a few different things so that when you're watching back your squat on a video, or maybe you're watching a client, there might be things that you can identify which you may have not noticed before, and if you address them, may help fix the good morning squat pattern. Okay, so the first problem I see is the knees coming too far forward at the bottom of the movement. So generally, when you are going to do a squat, especially a low bar squat, from here, your knees are going to go forward by some amount. Okay, so if I come down here, my knees come forward by some amount. Alright? There is a point where your knees have gone forward far enough, and then anything after this I'm going to class as excessive knee drift. So your weight has likely shifted forward too much. And then when you're at the bottom of the squat, because the weight has shifted forward too much, it likely has to swing backwards and then come back, and it causes the good morning squat. So this is a general guideline that I generally see. This isn't for everyone, it's just a general guideline that I use for most people, okay? You would have heard of, like, don't let your knees go past your toes because it's gonna hurt your knees or something like that. Then we've got this other camp of saying let your knees go as far past your toes because it's totally fine and it's not going to hurt your knees. I'm not doing this from a point of view of like hurting your knees. I just find for most people, not all, but most people, when they come down into the squat, the knee is around in line with the toe, and that's about as far forward as they generally have to shift in a low bar type squat. So this is not relevant for a high bar. In a high bar, the knees might go a little bit further past the toes. This is specifically for a low bar type squat. So for most people, I find the knees, as far as they have to go, is around in line with the toes. And then when they go beyond that, or really far beyond that, it's probably been, I'll class it as knee drift. So if I'm going to squat for myself, I think this angle might be okay. From here to here, my knee is going to go around in line with my toes in this top, say, 1/3 of the movement. Then when I get down for the rest of the movement, you'll see my knees don't move any more horizontal than they did in that top third of the movement. So here, my knees come to about there. That's about in line with my toes. For me, that's about as far as forward that's gonna go. Now when I drop, my knees does not go any further forward than that point. Now I'll go a little bit faster. So just to give like a real life demonstration, when the knees go too far over the toes, there's a few things that's happening. So first off, you can see when Amy squats, her knees probably don't have to go this far over her toes, okay? And when she comes up, she falls forwards, and then she has this good morning type squat pattern. When the knees go too far over the toes, sometimes the weight, so her weight, rather than being in the middle of her foot, it can shift into her toes, or sometimes when the knees are going over the toes, it might be a result of the weight shifting into the toes. But that's not important. But weight can shift into the toes, knees can shift in past the toes, the hips will shift forward as well, the torso shifts forward as well, and the barbell is going to shift forward as well. So everything, so if you were to add the mass of Amy's body and the barbell, her center of mass is going to be, say, somewhere here where my mouse is, okay? And that is going to be in front of her base of support, which is over the middle of the foot. So what happens if that center of mass shifts forward, okay? What generally happens when you're at the bottom of the squat here, now it's going to have to shoot backwards because it has to recover. If it's in front of the base of support, it's going to have to swing backwards so it can go back over the base of support. Because if this center of mass keeps going forward, well then Amy is going to lose her balance and that bar is going to dump forward over her, or she's just going to roll forward and just fall over, okay? So she comes forward here, everything shoots back. You can see everything shoots back. Look how I said that the hips are going to shift back and forward. Look at the edge of her legs, her butt, and her back. If you look at that line, this is the bottom. Once when she comes up, look how it shifts back. Can you see how everything moved back from here to here? Now, because the center of mass has shot back, that bar is trying to go back over the middle of the feet. Now, look at the torso, or the angle of her torso. She gets the chest fall, hip shooting back, knees are shooting back, and then it's like a little bit of a good morning squat. So I'll play it in fight. This is just one rep I did in isolation. So on repeat, you can see that good morning type pattern that she is displaying. Again, look at the knees, they go too far forward, down the bottom here, then everything shoots back. When everything shoots back, her hips shoot back, her chest falls forward, looks like a bit of a good morning, and then she stands back up. So this is what I'm trying to explain, that if the knees go excessively past the toes more than they're required, that can cause the center of mass going too far out of the base of support, which can cause it having to swing back, which can lead to this good morning type looking squat. So how do we fix our knees going too excessively far forward. The technique cue is quite simple. It's not simple to do, but the technique cue is don't let your knees go excessively too far forward. It's really as simple as that cue. As I said, it's not simple to do. It is as simple as that cue though. So again, for most people, what you will generally find is your knees are probably going to shift around in line with your toes. So if I'm squatting and I'm looking down, okay, I can see, I'm not looking at my knees, I'm looking at the floor, but I can see in my kind of peripheral vision around where my knees are. I can see, even though I'm looking here, I can see my knees are around in line with my toes. If you're not too sure where they're at, film yourself from the side so you can see where your knees are, and if it looks like they're going excessively far forward. Also, how I said, it might just be coming from your weight shifting forward into your toes as well. So potentially look at the feet, look at your shoes from the side. So this one you're gonna have to film yourself from the side. All right. Have a look to see the pressure on the feet. If you can see that it looks like your shoe is getting squished at the front, okay, or if it looks like your foot's rocking or seesawing, you can generally see when your weight is going into your toes if you look on camera and look at the shoe. If you are losing your balance into your toes, as I said, that can cause this chain reaction, knees going forward, hips going forward, chest falling forwards, and then as you come up you get this good morning type squat. So one of the fixes that you might need to do is keep your balance in your midfoot. Don't let yourself go into your toes as you're coming down to the bottom of the squat. It's a very common problem. Sometimes you might have to think of both things, okay? I have this problem with myself, especially when it gets heavy and I get fatigued. I will fall into my toes and my knees will go over my toes as well if I'm not thinking about it. So sometimes you might have to think on both of those cues. Keep my weight in the middle of my feet and don't let my knees go excessively far forward. And as I said, focusing on that may be contributing to why someone might be seeing a good morning squat.